Strong female leader this month gained national prominence in 2013 when she strapped on a pair of pink sneakers and held a 13-hour filibuster to protect women's reproductive freedoms in Texas as a state senator. She's also the founder of Deeds Not Words, which seeks to empower and activate the voices of young women in public and political discourse. Please welcome the amazing Wendy Davis. I can't imagine there's a reason why you'd want to start something like Deeds Not Words, but what inspired you to start Deeds Not Words?
Paying it forward, I guess you could say. The next generation of young women, I truly believe, are the ones who are going to deliver the promises that we've all been fighting for. And they're looking for a little bit of guidance in how to do that, and that's why we started Deeds Not Words, to help them.
That's amazing. So we're coming up on the 6-year anniversary of your famous 13-hour filibuster to prevent SB 5 passing. What are your thoughts on the progress that's been made, as well as the work left to do here in Texas for reproductive rights?
Well, first of all, here's this thing that's been happening to me lately. I meet someone who's like 18 and they tell me, I remember when I was 11 years old and I was in my bedroom watching your filibuster. Makes me feel really old. But what was it?
How to stop aging. No, what do you feel about the progress that's been made since 2013, your filibuster, and what's left to do?
You know, the great thing is 3 years after that, so of course we killed the bill that night thanks to...
It was all your sneakers, right? It was all your sneakers?
It was actually the unruly mob.
Yes.
That's exactly what it was. If you were there, woo-hoo! And of course, we were called right back to another special session, and the bill passed into law. And though only a piece of it actually went into effect because the court intervened and stopped part of it from happening, it still was sufficient to close over half of the clinics that we had in the state. So we started with 42, and I think 22 or 23 of them closed. And then in the meanwhile, it wound up through the court system all the way to the Supreme Court. And 3 years later, literally almost to the day, it was 3 years and 1 day later, the Supreme Court struck down that law. And so the good that came from that point was that these targeted regulations of abortion providers, where they were going after, trying to look like they weren't going after abortion, they were really creating greater health standards for women by making clinics safer. The Supreme Court shut that down and said, we don't believe your bogus arguments that this is somehow in the interest of women's health, and therefore we're not going to let this fly anymore. And that was really good because it had started happening all over the country, and it really stopped it dead in its tracks. So that's the good news. The bad news is that now, and since the election of Donald Trump, we have Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, we have Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, and with those appointments now, there's an all-out frontal, completely shameless assault on just trying to overturn the right to safe and legal abortion in this country altogether. And right now, of course, as we sit here in our state's capital city, at that Capitol, in this particular legislative session, there have been some really egregious assaults on women's reproductive freedoms and abortion in particular. And I think several of them are probably going to pass into law. There are other states that are doing it too, and they're going to wind their way back up to the Supreme Court eventually. And please God, let Ruth Bader Ginsburg live forever and ever and ever.
I got my 401k back, and I deposited a Pope mobile for her. So
There you go.
that's my only solution. To rob the Pope and give her the Pope mobile.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good solution.
But yeah, I think if you're not pro-choice, leave. But the important thing to know is that if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, that's not going to stop abortions. People are still going to seek out abortions just unsafely. So it's really important to have access.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to the filibuster because I read recently about the Senate rules for
Yeah.
it, which are bonkers, and I think not a lot of people know about it. So you can't eat, drink, use the restroom, sit, or even lean against a desk during a filibuster.
Right.
So how do you prepare yourself mentally and physically for something like that? What's your filibuster workout regime?
So it takes a badass pink pair of sneakers.
Not a sponsor.
Pair of pink sneakers, not a sponsor. And a catheter. A catheter.
Wow.
Yes.
Because
yes,
I was like, how do you do that?
Girls gotta pee, right? Yeah, so I came prepared. A boiled egg, not very much to drink, and a lot of help from not only your Senate colleagues, the good guys, the Democrats, but also the thousands and thousands of people who showed up in the Capitol that day. That's really what made the difference. It was the people who showed up in the Capitol. It really was.
Yeah, I imagine that just kind of fuels you, like, because a human cannot go that long without, like, basic needs. But
I was super worried I was going to have, it was not long after, do y'all remember that Marco Rubio, like, dry mouth moment? The filibuster was not long after that, and that was my greatest fear because you cannot have even a sip of water or a hard candy or anything. And we had 13 hours in front of us, and I just thought I was going to have that moment, like right away. And you know what? The interesting thing is, the moment I got started, I never thought about it again. I did not get thirsty. I did not get hungry. I was lucky, I guess. Yeah.
It was magical.
It was great.
Can you tell us about Movement Mujjeres and why you decided to start this partnership with Jolt?
Yes, so Movement Mujjeres is a deep dive leadership training of 25 young women of color. They're all post-college graduates, and they'll go through a 2-year program, and then when we finish that first cohort, we have funding to do another 2-year round. So for the next 4 years, we've been funded by an organization in New York called the Novo Foundation. It was started by 2 of Warren Buffett's children, and they're really focused on women's leadership all over the world, not just here in the US. We had about 250 applications for 25 spots, and deciding who was going to be in that first fellowship class was so hard. They're from all over the state. They are remarkable young women, all leaders already in their own right. Our goal is to make sure that when they finish this program in the next 2 years, that they will be poised to take leadership positions in social justice movements, in the political world, and also in philanthropy, because it plays such an important part of making movement building possible by virtue of the wonderful donations and generosity of people who do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a strong female leader on the show, and a friend of mine, Jasmine Robinson, is one of the members. And she, since she's joined, has gotten nonprofit status for Collegiate Mom Coalition. So she's, like, these are amazing women just getting, like, the boost up to be even more amazing. So who is a strong female leader in your life?
I know this sounds purely political, but it's not. The first woman that I ever really paid attention to, who gave me kind of the inspiration to fight and fail and fight and fail, but keep coming back and fighting again, is Hillary Clinton. Thank you.
She's here tonight.
She's here.
I didn't have the budget. I blew it on the Pope mobiles.
But I had just gotten out of law school. I turned 30 the year that I graduated from law school, and I was not a person who was engaged or paying attention to politics at all. And Hillary Clinton was first lady, and she was fighting, like, with everything she had to try to pass universal health care in this country. And she was just vilified, absolutely vilified. And of course, she lost that battle. And the first lesson I learned in watching her is the way that she picked herself right back up, went back to battle and managed at least to get the Children's Health Insurance Program passed in this country as a non-legislator. And it was remarkable. And I've watched her career ever since. I was a surrogate for her on her last presidential campaign. And I just think she's extraordinary because she just keeps bouncing back over and over and over again and has taken probably more criticism, more unfair criticism, and weathered it more beautifully than anyone I can think of, honestly. So she's a great role model.
I think it's safe to say that the children's health care program that she launched is doing a lot better than Be Best, if you guys remember that. I haven't run the numbers, but I feel like it's safe.
Maybe helping a few more people.
What do you hope to see for the future of Deeds Not Words and Movement Mujjeres?
Yeah, so right now we have 19 chapters at high school and college campuses around the state. Our young women to date have passed 7 bills into law, and they're on track to pass 12 more in this legislative session. What I hope is that they will just keep doing it, you know, and that what I'm beginning to see that just fills me with so much joy is they're taking ownership of their newfound power, and they're starting to use it in ways that I never would have anticipated that they would. They're spreading what they've learned to their peers. They're looking to younger women, younger than they are, to try to help along the way. And they're creating these sustainable projects that are born of their passion and their desire to see a world where women are equalized, and they're just doing extraordinary things. So if we're where we are 3 years from starting right now, I'm anxious to see where we will be 3 years from now and all that they will have done in the meantime. It's really remarkable.
I'm excited to watch and also probably get schooled by one of them on legislation. I'm going to learn from them. But thank you so much for joining us. We have many gifts for you.
Oh my goodness.
This is from Harper and Soul Provisions. Jessica Hawkins is right there.
Thank you, Jessica.
And this is from Modern Feminine Self-Care. It's a modern self-care kit. And really, to put me in a position of just having the shittiest gift, this is a tradition on the show. I go to Dollar Tree, not a sponsor, and get really ridiculous wine glasses. There's also that time of the month mug and poster in there. But I got to read this one. It says, "Unlike milk, it's okay to cry over spilled wine." I'm worried. I'm worried about this person. But thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you very much.